What was life like in the majestic Temple of Solomon? How did he manage his time among 700 royal wives and 300 concubines? Every day, women were prepared for a possible night at the king's side. They were subjected to baths in perfumed waters, massages with myrrh and aloe oils, while their hair was braided with gold threads. In the palace, the knights followed meticulously planned rituals with exotic perfumes, engaging dances, sacred baths in rare oils and jewelry chosen to seduce. However, the dispute between these women went far beyond the search for pleasure. In this account, you will understand how this vast harem worked and what the routine was like in the temple. And in the end, an even more enigmatic revelation will be revealed: the supernatural being that Solomon kept under control through his legendary ring. Don't miss any details, as this revelation could transform everything you've ever heard about the most powerful king in history. Now transport yourself to the year 957 BC. The rising sun illuminates Jerusalem, revealing an impressive sight. On Mount Moriah, a monumental construction rises, a true masterpiece that would leave any visitor breathless. Its walls were covered in pure gold, reflecting the dawn light like a divine beacon. Solomon's temple was not just a building. It was a demonstration of power and devotion, a structure that consumed resources equivalent to billions of dollars in today's values. More than 180,000 men dedicated themselves tirelessly for 7 years to build this ancient wonder. Imagine the grandeur of this project. Endless caravans carrying cedars from Lebanon, considered the noblest wood at the time, descending from the mountains towards Jerusalem. Phoenician craftsmen, recognized as the most skilled in the ancient world, carved every detail with impressive precision. The sound of hammers and chisels resounded day and night as huge blocks of stone, comparable to the size of modern houses, were moved with ingenious techniques that still intrigue scholars today. The dimensions of the temple defied any concept of grandeur. The main sanctuary was 30 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 15 meters high. However, what really made it extraordinary was its interior. The walls, from floor to ceiling, were completely covered in gold, without a single point where the eyes could rest without encountering the shine of this precious metal. Imposing cherubs, carved from olive wood and covered in gold, guarded the Holy of Holies with their wings outstretched, creating an environment of mystery and reverence. The priest's atrium was adorned with rare stones, each bearing a story of distant lands. 2 monumental columns, called Jachin and Boaz, marked the entrance to the temple. Their capitals, decorated with bronze pomegranates and intertwined chains, symbolized the strength and stability of Solomon's reign. In the heart of the temple, the Holy of Holies guarded the Ark of the Covenant. This sacred space, a perfect cube measuring 10 meters on a side, could only be accessed by the high priest once a year, on the Day of Atonement. The air was constantly filled with the aroma of incense and the scent of cedar, creating an unforgettable sensory experience for everyone who entered. To keep this impressive structure in full operation, Salomo instituted an innovative administrative system. He organized 24 divisions of priests who alternated in shifts, ensuring that the sacred service was never interrupted. Each division had specific duties, from the conservation of the golden lamps to the preparation of the showbread, which were renewed weekly on Saturdays. And that's just the beginning. You will discover how Solomon used supernatural powers to subdue demons, the occult rituals conducted by his 1,000 wives on nights in the palace, and the mystical practices that took place away from the eyes of the people. If you believe that God still works wonders in your life, express your faith by commenting, "The temple of God is in me." At dawn, long before the first rays of sunlight illuminated the golden walls of the temple, a harmony of sounds filled the sacred corridors. The bang of the bronze gates as they were opened marked the beginning of a new cycle of intense activities. The Levites, organized into specialized groups, began their duties with almost military discipline. The first task of the day was purification, a ritual as sacred as the offerings themselves. Imagine hundreds of servants moving in perfect harmony, some carrying water in golden jugs, others sweeping the courtyards with brooms specially dedicated for that purpose. The marble floor was washed with such care that it was said that one could see one's own reflection in it. The temple musicians, recognized for their extraordinary skill, occupied strategic positions in the courtyards. Their harps, cymbals, and trumpets created a heavenly symphony that echoed beyond the walls of Jerusalem. Each song was meticulously chosen for different times of the day, following the guidelines given by King David himself. In the outer courtyards, authorized traders offered sacrificial animals, but this was no ordinary market. Each animal underwent a rigorous priestly inspection to ensure that it was immaculate and worthy of being offered to God. Prices were regulated, allowing even the humblest to participate in the rituals. A sophisticated system of aqueducts, considered a remarkable feat of ancient engineering, ensured an uninterrupted supply of water for the temple's diverse needs. Water was vital not only for cleansing, but also for purification rituals. The Bronze Sea, a colossal reservoir supported by 12 bronze oxen, contained enough water to meet all daily demands. The priests followed a thorough purification ritual before beginning their duties. They dressed in linen clothes, kept in special chambers, each piece carrying a symbolic meaning and being worn in a specific order, accompanied by prayers. Behind the scenes of the temple, a veritable city operated without rest. Bakers prepared the showbread in special ovens, following a sacred recipe passed down for generations. Perfumers mixed sacred incense, the formula of which was a secret guarded as jealously as the temple's own treasures. If this message touched your heart, show your faith by leaving a like right now. May God pour countless blessings upon your life. Still, in this video, you will learn how Solomon dominated supernatural beings with his magic ring and the seduction rituals that transformed the palace into a place of forbidden pleasures, the harem that changed the course of history. What you are about to discover about one of the greatest monarchs of antiquity will reveal secrets that few have dared to tell. A narrative of power, seduction, and consequences that still reverberate today. Imagine a palace of such magnitude that it could house 1,000 women, each with their own rooms, servants, and rituals. Solomon's harem was not just a place of pleasure, but a center of political influence, where the fate of entire nations was decided. Royal lineage wives and 300 concubines, each symbolizing a strategic alliance with distant kingdoms. The pharaoh's daughter occupied the most prestigious position, residing in a palace built especially for her, adorned with hieroglyphics and furnished with the most exquisite Egyptian pieces. His entourage included hundreds of female servants, musicians, and Nile dancers. Their clothing was made of linen so delicate that it was said to be as translucent as water. The princesses of Moab brought with them knowledge of exotic fragrances, while Sidonian women were renowned for their skills in weaving royal purple. Each cultural group preserved its own traditions, creating a unique multicultural environment in ancient times. The harem functioned like a miniature city, possessing its own intricate hierarchy. Royal wives resided in the upper pavilions, overlooking lush, fragrant gardens, while concubines occupied the still opulent but less grand lower floors. Each woman had her own royal seal, being able to conduct transactions and maintain correspondence with her homelands. Specialized scribes kept detailed records of each wife and concubine, noting their origin, dowries, gifts exchanged, and, most crucially, any children born to the union. Managing the harem required an army of servants, butlers, guards, cooks, musicians, doctors, and midwives. What comes next will reveal the deepest mysteries of Solomon's palace, where each night was a singular celebration of love and beauty. The rituals in preparation for a night with the king began at dawn. The chosen one was communicated discreetly by a special messenger, beginning an elaborate process that lasted throughout the day. First, she was taken to the House of Purifications, a building entirely dedicated to beauty rituals. There, people immersed themselves in 7 different pools, each one impregnated with specific oils such as myrrh, aloe, cassia, and cinnamon. Her personal servants, usually 7, made sure every detail was carefully taken care of. Their hair was washed with aromatic oils and combed with ivory combs adorned with precious stones. The skin received special treatment with a secret formula composed of honey, goat's milk, and essential oils, a recipe passed down by the harem guardians over generations. The nails were dyed with henna, forming intricate designs that told love stories through ancient symbols. The clothes chosen for the evening were selected with care. The fabrics, so fine that they looked like the work of weaving spiders, were dyed with rare colors extracted from shells and precious minerals. Jewelry was chosen not only for its beauty, but also for its symbolism and seductive capacity. The royal bedroom was prepared with equal attention to detail. Golden censers burned special blends of fragrances, creating an immersive atmosphere. Flower petals were scattered over silk sheets, while oil lamps were strategically placed to generate seductive illumination. Musicians specializing in love songs sat in adjacent chambers, performing soft melodies inspired by the Song of Songs itself. The notes flowed like honey, enveloping the environment in romance and mystery. The chosen one was then guided by elderly women experienced in the arts of love, who passed on secrets passed down from generation to generation. Every gesture, word, and movement was meticulously rehearsed to provide a unique and unforgettable experience. If this message resonates with you, show your faith by commenting, "God's love is greater." Stay tuned, because what comes next is surprising. You will discover how Solomon employed supernatural powers to subdue demons, the secret rituals of his 1,000 wives in the palace nights, and the hidden practices that took place far from the eyes of the people in the heart of Jerusalem. The Song of Songs echoed through the halls of the palace, a love poem so powerful that it became part of the Holy Scriptures. In it, Solomon expressed a vision of love that fused the physical and the spiritual, celebrating human passion as a reflection of divine love. The women of the harem came from different cultures, each bringing their own traditions of seduction. Egyptian women were masters of belly dancing, moving like serpents to the sound of golden sistrums. The Phoenicians had knowledge of perfumery capable of bewitching the senses, while the Moabites stood out for their love songs that melted hearts. The palace housed secret gardens, where fountains whispered among pomegranate trees and vines. In this scenario, women shared ancestral knowledge about aromatic herbs, dance movements, and the art of seductive conversation. Each culture had its own conception of pleasure and beauty. Specific musical instruments were reserved exclusively for love songs: delicate harps whose strings were made of silk, drums that imitated the heartbeat, and flutes that sounded like passionate sighs. Music was considered a form of magic, capable of opening the gates of the heart. Never in all history has a court witnessed such competition for the love of a single man. What you will now discover about the disputes in Solomon's harem will reveal an intricate game of power that influenced the fate of a kingdom. In the vast harem, each woman devised her own strategies to win the king's attention. Some stood out for their intelligence, actively participating in discussions about governance and philosophy. Others invested in unique artistic talents, composing poetry, creating exclusive fragrances, or developing mesmerizing dances. The competition was subtle but intense. Alliances were formed between women of different origins, weaving networks of influence that extended beyond the palace walls. A cunning concubine could rise socially by establishing strategic connections with influential royal wives. Servants played a crucial role on this intricate chessboard. They carried secret messages, watched every movement in the corridors, and reported the smallest events to their ladies. A whisper at the right moment could completely alter a favorite's fate. Gifts were constantly exchanged, each one carrying hidden meanings. A specially prepared glass of wine, a poem written on scented papyrus, a piece of jewelry engraved with enigmatic symbols, all were part of a secret language of power and seduction. The most sagacious women understood that true power resided in knowledge. Therefore, they dedicated themselves to studying the king's preferences in detail, seeking to understand his deepest tastes, thoughts, and desires. In this way, each of them sought to secure their place not only alongside the monarch, but also in the history of one of the most fascinating empires of antiquity. Their concerns about the kingdom, their moods and their schedules, made some palace women informal advisors, able to influence political decisions through intimate conversations. To receive victory and transform your life today, comment now, Amen. I deserve victory, Jesus. What you are about to discover about Solomon's sons will reveal how Israel's greatest kingdom began its decline. A story filled with love, power, and consequences that altered the course of humanity. Surprisingly, despite having had 1,000 wives, biblical accounts mention only one son of Solomon, Rehoboam. However, historians believe that many other children were born into the royal harem. Each birth was a political event, strengthening alliances with foreign nations and creating new possibilities for succession within the palace. Each royal child lived in their own universe. Tutors from distant lands taught languages, philosophy, and the arts. Mothers fought to ensure that their children had the best education possible, as they knew that knowledge was a symbol of power. Hebrew teachers ensured the preservation of Israel's traditions, while foreign teachers brought with them the teachings of other cultures. Rehoboam, son of the Ammonite Naamah, grew up between extremes. On the one hand, he was instructed in the law of Moses and the customs of Israel. On the other, she lived with the exotic culture of her foreign aunts. This duality would tragically shape his reign in the future. The king's sons rarely saw their father. Solomon, busy with matters of state and divided between his hundreds of wives, delegated the education of his children to mothers and tutors. Each mother sought to mold her children according to her own beliefs and values, resulting in the formation of factions within the palace. Over time, the royal residence became a seething cauldron of religions. Each foreign wife brought with her not only her beauty, but also her beliefs. The daughter of the Egyptian pharaoh worshipped Isis and Osiris in rooms full of hieroglyphs. The Sidonians burned incense to Astarte on hidden altars. The Moabites performed rituals for Chemosh under the glow of the moon. Solomon at first allowed these cults as diplomatic concessions. However, little by little, he was seduced by the love of his wives and by his intellectual curiosity, beginning to participate in the rituals. He had altars erected to foreign gods in the hills around Jerusalem, each one more ornate than the last. The impact was devastating. The people, upon seeing their king worshipping other gods, began to question their own faith. Prophets and priests warned of divine wrath, but their voices were drowned out by the sound of drums from pagan cults and the laughter of the harem. In the heart of the kingdom, a spiritual battle was raging. While Yahweh's temple remained grand in the center of Jerusalem, small sanctuaries dedicated to foreign gods multiplied in the palace gardens. The aroma of sacred incense now mingled with the exotic fragrances of pagan rituals. Keeping 1,000 women was not only a sentimental challenge, but also an enormous financial burden. Each wife demanded a luxurious standard of living, servants, jewelry, fine clothing, and exquisite banquets. The royal treasury, once abundant, began to show signs of depletion. To support spending, the tax system was intensified, resulting in high taxes. The people, who had previously revered the wise king, began to murmur in discontent. Forced labor was instituted to keep the palaces and temples functioning, generating resentment among the tribes. In the harem, political intrigues became increasingly fierce. As the king aged, younger wives competed for his attention, while older wives fought to preserve their influence. Rumors of conspiracies roamed the palace's golden corridors. If you believe that God can restore any situation, comment now. Restore, Lord. Ancient writings mention the legendary Ring of Solomon, an artifact engraved with the sacred name of God. It is believed that with this ring, Solomon commanded spirits and demons, forcing them to work on the construction of the temple and palace. Every colossal stone and massive beam would have been moved by supernatural forces at his command. According to these legends, demons themselves served in Solomon's court. Some acted as messengers, crossing great distances in a few moments. Others revealed hidden secrets about medicinal plants and valuable minerals. The Testament of Solomon, an ancient text, describes how the king interrogated evil spirits, discovering their names, powers, and weaknesses. This knowledge would have been recorded in mystical manuscripts, coveted by magicians and scholars over the centuries. However, even with all this supernatural authority, Solomon remained aware of his dependence on God. He understood that his mastery over spiritual forces came solely from the Most High and sought to use this knowledge to glorify him. If you believe in divine power, comment, God's power is greater. Leave your like now and declare, my faith is firm in God. May this action symbolize your trust in him. Until the next video.